Hey everybody, and welcome to my In5 series on the MPC Live 2. You can watch me just resetting everything here because over on my Discord channel, I was talking with Atari and accidentally and on purpose was a bad influence and suggested looking into the MPC instead of waiting for a new one to come out. Especially the MPC one, it's an incredible value, but now Atari is starting to ask questions about how it works, and I figured I'll get back on the horse and start making some videos about it and answering questions on the MPC. It's one of my favorite instruments. I love it. I've been using MPCs for decades now, and they're great. And I love what Akai's been doing with it. I know that it's not perfect. There's plenty of issues and complaints, but let's just dig into it. So high level, I'm losing my voice. High level, you're probably going to see something like this as your boot screen, where you're going to see your project templates. You're going to see some demos if you kind of want to test it out. You're going to have whatever your recent projects are. And I'm going to go empty project just to start here and just explain the hierarchy that you should be kind of thinking about and that you probably want to understand how the MPC thinks. It's a little archaic. It's somewhere between a DAW and a SP404 Mark II in some ways, but it's its own thing. And if you can get to know it and understand how to organize your songs within it or different approaches to it, you'll be good. The other thing to know about the MPC is there's usually like 2, 3, sometimes 4 different ways to do things. And they're all very similar, but they all are kind of working around different types of issues for problems. So I'm just letting you know, because if somebody tries to give you a suggestion about how to do something one way to fix a problem, it may introduce another issue or thing that you need to understand how it works and thinks and operates. And if you don't or cannot work with a certain type of problem, you probably have another way you can approach a problem. So it just kind of requires a little bit of outside the box thinking, but let's just get into it. So project level, this is basically like in a DAW, you're just it's whatever the name is, that it's going to have your directory, the name of the project, and that's about it. It's a container that's going to have all of your sequences, tracks, and drum programs, or programs, not necessarily drums, but it's going to be kind of like overarching, like just where you save stuff. There is a little bit more to it, but not much. And effectively, here, sequence is going to be your high level category of like different sections of your song. Or, I mean, you can have one sequence be an entire song and just make it as many bars as you want. Like if you want 32, you can dial it in. You can go all the way up, in fact, to 999 bars. So you could make a long ambient piece that, or whatever, that just goes and goes and goes. But I wouldn't suggest doing that. You start getting into performance problems having very long extended projects like that, at least when you're on standalone mode. So I tend to either go for like a song that might be like 32 to 64 bars and just have it in one sequence, or sometimes it's easier to kind of break down the sequence and have like the first sequence be intro, then like, build up, a chorus, main, bridge, bar, drops, outro, those kinds of things. So you can have each sequence be having its own distinct BPM. It can have its own distinct number of bars. And then if you're wondering what the start and end is, this is basically like if you make an 8-bar sequence, this is turning the loop on and off, whether it's going to keep looping forever. I can also adjust like the start and end. So if I only wanted to work on a small segment of it, I just come in here and dial in whatever I want the start and end bars to be, and I can just work on it really quick. And transpose is going to let me take all of the notes in the tracks and kind of shift them up or down if I wanted to transpose it for a song. Let's say it's an A minor and you wanted it to be in a different key. You could move it up to like a C or C minor or whatever, and you would use transpose to do that. Now, each sequence is going to have multiple tracks. And you can have, for example, and each track's going to have a program in it. In this case, we've got a drum program, but the track is defining what type of program is in here. So drum track would be drum program's what you want if you want to have SP404 style, like one shots and triggers. I wouldn't necessarily use it for loops, because the way the MPC works is for a drum program, if you trigger, you can have it effectively loop forever, but the envelope for the ADSR is going to slowly kind of come in. So it's going to just get quieter over time, and there's a better way to handle loops. So I would kind of think about this as like one shots or gated material that you want to play. If it's only going to go for like one bar, not a problem. You can kind of trigger it at the start of the bar, do it again. 4 bars, not a problem. But if you're doing like into like these 16, 80 bar kind of things, it may not be the right tool for you, just depending on how you're recording things. You can also have for track a plugin. So although the MPC doesn't support in standalone mode VST plugins, Akai does provide a bunch of free plugins, and you can also buy some content here. There's a very good list. I think there's plenty here. I'm excited to see every time they add something new. You don't need everything, obviously, but there's a lot of cool stuff here. Your key groups are going to be similar to your drum programs, but instead of kind of thinking about usually one shots here, the key group is where you're going to be able to take like a set of, maybe 1 to 5 or 10 samples and create like a piano, and then spread that across the program and be able to play like a full piano bed and full piano piece using that. From there, you've got clips. Now, before you get too excited, because this might kind of sound like Ableton Live looping, it's not. It's similar and can fit some of the gaps that wanting an Ableton Live loop might leave you, but it is not exactly the same. So if you look at these different colored columns here, the thing to note is if you play one that's red and then you go play another one that's red, it will mute it and start the next one. And these things will loop forever for you. So if you're looking to play a lot of looped content, the clip mode might do what you want. I'm not going to dig into it right now because I don't want to take forever on this video, but the loops will effectively kind of keep going for an extended period of time, effectively forever. And it can at least kind of fill that niche for you if that's what you're looking for. Next up, we've got MIDI. If you're looking to control external synths and other gear, you probably want a MIDI track. You can record notes, aftertouch, and CC to it, as well as like pitch bend, mod wheel stuff. So it's pretty, it's got a lot of features to it, and you can just dial in whatever you want for outputs and ports and things. And then you've got CV. So this is what you'd want for like controlling potentially guitar pedals or Euro rack gear, that where you can send like this control voltage message out. Now, what you need to know about all of these types of programs that you can assign to a track is I can make another track and it's going to also be on the same program. I can make another track. It's going to be assigned to the same program. You may or may not want that because, like, let's say we've got a synthesizer here loaded. I can play this synth. If I make another track, I'm not playing the same synth. Again, like this is where the MPC can be a little, like you have to like understand it a little bit, but usually you're going to want to come in and hit the plus sign and make a new synth so that on track 2, you're playing something different than what you're playing on track 1. So I'm not going to deep dive it at the moment, but it's just something to think about, because if you can share things, but that doesn't always mean that you want to share programs on tracks. So that gets tracks. You can see that the length is tied by default to sequence, but you can adjust it to however many beats you want. So you can actually make this one beat. So like a kick, you can make like this a kick, a hat, or whatever. You can go like do polyrhythmic things by setting the length to odd beats and things. You can go nuts. Similarly, it also has its own transpose. So if you want to transpose notes up or down by just copying a track over, you can do that. You can adjust the velocity. So if you're hitting full velocity all the time and you find out that you just want everything, all the notes coming in to be 70% quieter or 30% quieter, you can just drop it down to 70. And I think you go up to like 150, looks like 200. So you can go really, you have a great range of expressiveness by adjusting the whole group here. You've also got MIDI channels. So when you're having content come in, like what channel is it listening to? And you get your arm and record. I see a lot of people miss this sometimes, but when you're recording things for the track, for MIDI coming in, you may or may not want record on. So just note that you want to arm and record over here. And down here where you got plugins, again, you've got all the different types, and they are going to be dropped into down below in this plugin space. And it's going to have like little features where you can do things like warp the sample, assign the sample, edit sample. You can adjust what the sound is. You can go to your favorites and grab them if it's a plugin. Clips, you can edit your clips. And again, like you may want multiple clip programs. And finally, well, I guess kind of finally, you may even want separate MIDI programs. The reason why you want to do this is if I go to, and I'm sent, like, let's say this is set up and going to an external synth. It's going to my, say it's going to my Waldorf Iridium. If I go make a track 2 and come back and go here, it's using the same MIDI program, and this can cause like some issues. So you might not want to go assign this like this and go MIDI, like the DIN 5 or whatever the output is. You probably are going to want to create a new program. So all I want to let you know is it can be important to go through and actually name your programs, your tracks, and your sequences so that you actually know what they are intended for specifically. Again, I'll record some more videos and we'll deep dive some of this stuff, but I hope that gives you like a good hierarchy overview of how the MPC structure works as is. Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. Keep making music, keep having fun. Remember, if it sounds good, it is good, and peace.